Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 60 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on April 27th, 2021. How you folks doing on this fine day? I'm doing well. Took a bit of a break after last week. A lot of data publication wears me out. Guys, there was a lot. But yeah, it was a lot of data published for you last week, and we will get into that this episode. That is the crux of it, really. I'll tell you what, I got some new silencers recently, like silencers I bought just because I thought they were cool. Like, for example, I just got this Q Erector, the little modular 22 silencer from Q. It's super light. It's weird, actually. It's sitting on my desk. I've been playing with it. I got it here in front of me. I remember the first time I held one, it didn't even make sense how light it was. So I was like, oh, like when I picked it up, I was like, oh my God, like, it was weird, And so I bought one. I finally bought one. I was like, I bought one, and, I was like, it's kind of a crapshoot on the color, right? Because you get this kind of the clear anodized beige or tan color for the whole silencer, but like the blast baffle's steel, right? So I guess it's a crapshoot on that, and I ended up getting one that looks just like heat treated steel with, like, it's just a gold, I guess, colored, bronze colored, which is cool. I thought that was cool, so I was like, sweet. It kind of looks like their new the 9mm version that's coming out. It looks like that, only it's small in 22. So I think that would be nice if I could also get the 9mm one. I'm looking forward to that. So I got this 22 one. I haven't even shot it yet, dude. I haven't even, I had one in that I posted before on my social media accounts that I haven't even shot. I got that as a loaner unit from someone to test. I haven't even shot it. So I think this thing being so long and light, I think it's like a little bit over 2.5 ounces total in this full configuration. I think I might just leave it like that if it's super quiet. I was thinking put it on my Ruger Mark III with my added bolt mass if this has high back pressure to keep the action closed longer. I a long time ago modified a Ruger Mark III bolt attachment made out of steel so that I could keep the Ruger Mark III bolt closed long. Anyway, I'll have to do an episode on that sometime and test it for you. I have never tested it with PSoft, but I know it's quieter. And if it's quieter through my ear, that means that, PSoft will show you. So, yeah, we'll talk about that. So that's that one. And then eventually, we're not going to talk about this episode. And then this other silencer I got, and I literally just got this one today. It came in the mail. It's a Surefire. It's one of their SOCOM rifle silencers. It's the SOCOM 556 RC2. It is not as big as I thought it was going to be. It's kind of hefty. It's a little bit heavy, but it is short and it is awesome. And it is a dedicated 556 silencer, and it has an awesome mount, and it is high quality. It's in my hands right now, and I am looking forward to messing with this silencer. I am stoked. I bought this actually directly from Surefire because I know those guys, and I was able to purchase it through an internal purchase program, so that helped me out. Otherwise I would have just gone to Silencer Shop. That's where I purchased the Q Erector from. They had some of those, so I said, hey. So I bought it from there. Because, the J Situation Podcast, it's probably sponsored by Silencer Shop. You didn't see that coming, did you? Maybe you did. Silencer Shop, it is the most efficient and intelligent way to purchase silencers. I guess unless you can go manufacturer direct, but how many of you guys do that? I don't know, maybe some of you do. Even if you do, you can do it through Silencer Shop using their kiosk if you're Form 4. I mean, as a silencer consumer, they're not only my dealer of choice, they're my infrastructure of choice, frankly. If I can use their kiosk, I will. It is easy. If I can use their dealer network, I will. I'm an SOT now, so I still use it, man. How do you think I got that Q Erector? I use their dealer portal. I mean, seriously, like this is like, I mean, I'm buying silencers from everyone, and I'm getting silencers from consumers. I'm doing, for testing. So just because I'm an SOT now, it doesn't mean I'm not using it. I mean, it's amazing. Silencer Shop, really, they've done a lot of cool stuff. They create an easy system that minimizes the likelihood of errors in your paperwork. If you're a consumer using this stuff, I mean, if you file a Form 4 through Silencer Shop, there's a QR code on that thing that they use, and the ATF is scanning that. Guaranteed, it's gonna reduce paperwork errors. Guaranteed. I mean, the amount of paperwork processed through them, I mean, it's a numbers game, man. There's some large number stuff going on with that, and the QR code is definitely helping. They put them on the Form 4, so the ATF basically scans the code. They don't have to fat finger the data in. It's one of the reasons Silencer Shop has grown. Okay, they continue to innovate, do stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes with Silencer Shop that they do. They're very forward thinking, and they have a network of dealers nationwide where silencers are legal. So you can use that kiosk and their services, and then you cut down on the errors. And you simplify the purchasing process. It's a one-stop shop. You do everything. You buy your silencer, you get your tax stamp, you form a trust, you do it all online, you do DocuSign, you digitally sign your Form 4 sitting on your couch watching Netflix. It's crazy. It's crazy. You put your dang fingerprints in the kiosk there, and they're in there. You don't have to mess with the ink. All your personal information, your pictures and everything, they're stored safely in their system. It's all encrypted. When you need it for your forms, there's easy access. You don't have to hassle with you go to the drugstore there and get your passport photos. Get your fingerprint cards. You do your ink. You don't have to get your fingers dirty. You just use the kiosk. And look, man, they got a money back guarantee. Let's say I bought this silencer, and frankly, sir, ma'am, the silencer's quite loud and terrible. In fact, mount came off and the welds broke, and half of my silencer flew down range. Silencer Shop, how can you help me? Well, call Silencer Shop. If they sold you that silencer, they're going to do their best to make it right. You know what I mean, Jelly Bean? I think you do know what I mean. So, yeah, like I'm saying, man, frankly, I do wish Silencer Shop had been around when I got into the NFA game. It would be quite nice. Would have saved me a lot of hassle. Tell you what, you can go to their website, you search for the products you want to buy, and you're ready for make a purchase. You use the online tools there. You choose the dealers in your area that'll hold your silencer for you, and maybe they're going to let you shoot the silencer while you wait. Go through that long wait. Maybe they let you have a conjugal visit there. You go and you fraternize with the merchandise. Possibly. No transfer fees. No paperwork errors. Just you and your silencer with no drama. It truly is silencer ownership simplified. It's good people. And if that wasn't enough advertisement for you, the J Situation podcast is also sponsored by PEW Science, pushing the silencer industry forward one test at a time. You can visit pewscience.com for the suppression rating, the simplest and most accurate hearing safe ratings for your suppressed small arms. And there's other research on there too. We're going crazy. I'm Jay. I am the owner and technical director of PEW Science, and I'm not just a client. I'm a member. Wait, no, the owner. I'm a member. What's that one with the hair club for men? It's a joke. Butchered it. You get what I'm talking about. I use my own data, is what I'm trying to tell you. And the hearing safe ratings, the suppression rating on pewscience.com, it is based on true human sound perception. Okay, it's in section 5 of the Silencer Sound Standard. The standard walks you through gunshot noise, sort of like Wikipedia, but it's cooler because it's about silencer sound. There are 7 parts. They are all on the website for you to read, pewscience.com. If you haven't seen the Silencer Sound Standard, it's okay. Don't worry. Don't be overwhelmed. It's no problem. Skip to section 5. It lets you know how silencers stack up in comparison to one another with regard to the sound at the muzzle and at the shooter's ear. And, you get a hearing safe dose limit for the particular platforms on which the silencers are tested. It's directly tied to human perception. It's very good. If the rating is higher, it will sound better, most likely. If the rating is lower, it will most likely sound louder. That's all there is to it. That's based on the 95th percentile human ear. It's all on there on the website there. It explains it for you. You will not find that anywhere else in the world. It is unique to pewscience.com. If you don't want to look at the reviews, if you say, Jay, frankly, your reviews are too long and I hate them. Say, well, first of all, that hurts my feelings, but it's okay. Second of all, no problem. Say no more, fam. Section 7, rankings. Boom. Database tool, sortable. Super simple. Jay, just tell me what the quietest silencer is. Okay, fine. Sort. You can click the column headings in section 7 of the standard. The ranking section there is pewscience.com/rankings, or you go to the website and you click on rankings. There's links all over the place. You can't miss it. You go past the trees, around the barn. Rankings are on your right. But yeah, there are, let's say you say, Jay, you're full of hot air. Just give me the numbers. And you go and you look at the rankings, but then you say, oh, well, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I do want to see a little bit more information. You say, okay, well, you click a link in the table there, and the reviews are all linked there in the table and the rankings, so you can go back and then you can swallow your words, sir. You can put your foot in your mouth and say, Jay, maybe I should have read the review. Say, I told you. Just kidding. It's all there for you, though, at your leisure. As always, if you are a manufacturer and you would like to use Pew Science for private testing and consulting services, there is a form on the website with which you can submit that inquiry. Your contact information and all the test data will be held in strict confidence, unless, of course, you want to show the world, the public, in which case, I'm your man. I will author an article for you for public consumption, and it shall be great. So yeah, we've done that a couple times for folks. Some of our clients choose to release that data to the world, and we have made that promise to do that for them. And if not, believe me, I have archives of data that you will never see. And that's how it is. That's how the world works sometimes. But hey, sometimes stuff makes it out to the world, and the state of practice benefits from it. Okay. Now, you can support this podcast, Pew Science, and our testing by joining with a membership at pewscience.com. And you can even, if you say, Jay, that, $8 a month, that's too rich for my blood. I say, okay, I understand. No pressure. You can rate the podcast a good rating there too, and that doesn't cost you anything. You let folks know. You let iTunes know. You let those folks know. You say, silencers aren't so bad. I think they're really great. And the more people that see the podcast there, the more people like silencers, and they get exposed and educated about how they work. We normalize their use, and then we start to win the hearts and minds. Therefore, starting to win more battles in the war against firearm infringement in this great country of ours, in the United States. So, and maybe there's some folks worldwide listening. I know I do have several listeners in other nations. Welcome to you folks. I hope you're enjoying this information. And those of you folks living in areas where silencers are unregulated, I hope you're using this information to the fullest extent possible. Those of you living in areas in which silencers are illegal and you don't have, laws and regulations to uphold your inherent human rights to self-defense, I would just tell you to be safe and operate within the parameters that you can, with what you can. Godspeed. Okay, let's go ahead and move into the topic summary for today. I only have three topics because, frankly, I think I'm going to go ham, and it's going to take a while. So I've only planned on three. If we get through early, well, we get through early, and we all win. If we get through late, you win and I don't. So 3 topics. First topic, let's get into the guts of Public Research Supplement 640, the Pew Science back pressure metric Omega. That's right. Public research was released last week, and we'll talk about that. Topic 2, Sound Signature Review 641, the OSS HX-QD 762 on supersonic 308. How crazy was that data? That's a very important review discussion that I'm going to need to have with you today, and there's a lot to talk about, and we need to make sure we do it justice, so we'll talk about that. And then topic 3, welcome to all the new PEW Science members, and thanks for your support. Okay, get a drink of water here, first of all. Life-giving H2O. Okay, topic 1 at a time of 15 minutes and 34 seconds. Oh my God. See, I'm remembering what I did. I think I did like 13 minutes, 12 minutes. Now I'm 15. I got 2 minutes over. I'm going to figure out those intros. I am. I'm going to figure them out eventually. Okay, topic 1. Public Research Supplement 640. The PEW Science back pressure metric, omega. Okay. This is a big deal, and I'm not sure who has read it yet. I think some of you probably have. If you have not, that's okay. It was super insane to do what I did here. It was very risky and, frankly, utterly ridiculous, if you really want to think about it. So the PEW Science back pressure metric omega, I told you I was going to finalize this thing eventually. And I did tell you that, right? I mean, it's not really something to be finalized necessarily, but it is something to use and continuously examine and validate. So I figured now is a good time to go ahead and write it all down in the best way we really can with the data we have so far, and to show it to you so we can all start using it and referencing it. And if there's some reason we together as a group feel something is off, we will address it. Okay? But until that time comes, it is what it is. Okay, it is what it is on the site. In this portion of the Silencer Sound Standards, section 640. You'll notice every time I write a review or an article, the title of the article is SSS and then 6 dot a number, right? Well, that's Silencer Sound Standard. Okay, section 6, subsection 40. Okay, it's section 640. This is everything that's on the website is part of the standard, meaning that it's a compendium of research. Like each review stands on its own, but it's also part of something bigger. You see? And I don't know if some of you were wondering about that. It's like, yeah, it's chapter 6 or section 6 of the standard is sound signature reviews and research supplements. Okay, and so eventually, there will be a book and a catalog, essentially an encyclopedia of Silencer Sound. And over the years, we will collect this until it is a compendium so large that it deserves probably third-party publication or something. You know what I mean, Jellybean? So yeah. Anyway, so 640. See, all things have numbers. Okay, super useful because I can refer to them. You see, it's all intentional. This is all intentional. It's all by design. Everything is ordered. Now, I don't know how many of you have been following along with the back pressure metric, but it was first presented, I think, in section 612. That was the sound signature review of the rugged radiant. Okay, that was 28 publications ago. But 28 publications before this omega publication in 640. So that's it took me that long to get to where we are now. It took me that long, just doing it as we went, right? As I go, checking things at all steps. Check. Observing the feedback I got from people. Testing different hypotheses, studying parameters, studying experiences. We now have a very robust empirical metric, a metric directly from test data that has been studied and correlates to real weapon use and function. Okay, this is a direct empirical metric. This is measured data. Okay, and this is called the omega metric. Now, I want to explain the metric to you, but first I want to talk about the name. Let's talk about the name. This is an actual analytical parameter It's an empirical metric based on research, so it needed a designation. It was going to have units, so it needed a name. It needed some kind of name. And immediately I thought, well, it's like a resistance in a way, because it's measuring a restriction in a system in a way. So I thought omega is perfect for this. It literally took me 10 seconds to name this. Like, it was really fast. Like, I thought about it and I did it. And I knew exactly how I was going to write the introduction to the publication. I thought about it all, like, right away. It was like a really fast decision for me. I didn't belabor it at all. I didn't ask anyone's opinion. I just told a couple people that I was going to do it. I texted Joe Guidini and I told him I was going to name this Omega in honor of his invention, the Omega baffle. The baffle system for a silencer that is a curved cone with a middle cut, which some people in the Form 1 community call clipping. Now they say you're clipping a baffle when you put a mill cut into the entrance aperture. And with Omega baffle, there's little portholes into coaxial chambers too. I mean, it's more complicated than that, but that's the long and short of it. Now, those little coaxial chambers, what that does is it just relieves high pressure flow stagnation is what it does. Okay, it's a good idea. It works well. And it's the reason why probably Silencer Co. exists right now as a company, frankly. For example, if you want to skip a bunch of history and get to the point, just to give you an idea, without the Omega baffle, SWR wouldn't get momentum. And then without that momentum, that their company really wouldn't have efficacy to keep running after Joe gave it to Matt and Henry. So then without giving it to them, they never continue the momentum to keep selling the Spectre 22 silencer, right, that has the Omega baffle in it, which then makes Silencer Co. feel like they're attractive enough to where they want to eliminate SWR as competition, so they buy SWR, and then they get the Spectre stuff. Well, then not only do they get the Spectre, they get rifle stuff. So Silencer Co. without that, Silencer Co. doesn't really make inroads with rifle suppression technology as well or as fast, right? Because they didn't have anything super advanced with the Sparrow. The Sparrow's a monocore slant baffle 22 silencer. Right? So what? That's their first product. What? So who knows? What would have happened without the SWR technology to Silencer Co.? Would it still have grown? Yeah, probably. Would it have grown like it did? I don't know, man. Maybe. But it would have been different. Okay? So this is important. This is an important timeline that shouldn't be forgotten, frankly. I think it's kind of weird that, no one talks about this. It's what are you talking about? People don't even know that. I think it's important. So, yeah. So the Omega baffle is important in the silencer industry, I think. I think Omega is an important name. So, and it's important because of how it works, but it's also important because of what it started. So it's fitting, I think, that now in 2021, a novel measurement methodology also uses it as a namesake. I think it's fitting. And I made that decision. And frankly, I'm honored. I'm honored to be able to speak with this inventor regularly, get guidance from him, and I consider him a friend. His name is Joe Guidini. He's the guy on the patent for the Omega baffle, the Omega silencer. And I became friends with him, and he's a nice dude. And I tell you what, the guy who named the Joe's baffle, his invention, his name was John Weaver, and that guy, SOT out of Florida, and there's a Small Arms review article linked in the Article 640 there on my website. There's a small arms review article about John that I linked there. You can click it and go read it. It's online. It's free. You can read it. It tells a little bit about him. And Joe tells the story very well about how everything was named and stuff, and how the baffles were in like a little styrofoam cup. And I don't want to butcher the story, and it's really cool. And so I'm not gonna try to. I don't even really think it's my story to tell. So I'm not gonna do that. But suffice to say, John did name the baffle Omega, and that is where the name comes from. So when you see Omega in the silencer industry, and anyone says that name, that's the origin. And if anyone is telling you that they made it up, well, they're not being straight with you. Okay. So, and the only reason I'm saying that is because a lot of people claim they came up with it. And that's just, I'm here to tell you that's not true. It is not true. I'm hearing it right from the horse's mouth. And so I guess you're hearing it secondhand. Like directly secondhand right now. Not third hand, but secondhand. So, and if you have a question, I got the guy. I can give you the first-hand guy. I mean, he's alive. He's not that old. Joe's there, so literally still alive. Literally. So it's not like this is like some kind of ancient thing. This is like literally present-day history. It's not like this is antiquated. This isn't like Maxim from like the early 1900s that someone's like debating whether or not he did what he did. No, this is like literally the dude lives in New Hampshire. Like this is like, and I've been to his house. Like me and Kevin Brittingham drank beer in his garage. Like this guy's like Joe's alive. So all this mess with like, oh, the Omega came from so and so company. No, it's literally Joe's baffled, and so it's like, what? Anyway, I just get a kick out of it because I'm like, how could someone possibly lie about that? And like with a straight face. So I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm totally gonna dedicate this to that. Not only am I gonna dedicate to it because I think it's a cool name, but I'm gonna give the complete history on my podcast and in the article so it lives on, and no one can lie about it anymore. I figured like that's a good, right? So yeah, that's the basis. That's Joe's patent. John Weaver named it. It's the name of the PEW Science back pressure metric, and it's the basis for the name of all the silencer co-rifle silencers with the name Omega, the Omega 300, the Omega 9K, the Omega 36M, all those Omegas. That's all named that because of John naming Joe's baffle. That's the only reason those names exist. So just so you know the history of that, and now that's permanent. That's in the Silencer Sound Standard, section 640 and onward. Okay, that's in the Silencer Sound Standard. That's in stone. And it's a tribute to Joe Gaddini and John Weaver. Okay, so it took me 10 seconds to name this thing, and I had all the history in my head already. And the fact that it quantifies flow restriction is perfect. It's absolutely perfect, and it's just a really perfect way to describe this. It's just it couldn't have worked out any better. And I'm dang it, I'm so pleased. And so it would be good to hit the summary points of the article for you folks. I want to make sure you folks understand what I'm doing here. And I know I've talked about this conceptually before, but it's worth exploring it again formally, and that's why I wrote it. There is no reason for me to read it to you. That's weird, unless you want to do like a book on tape thing. And if there's demand for that, I would be happy to read the articles to you, but you'd have to pay me because that's weird. But I've heard some people listen to books on tape. I don't do that. I've always just read books, so I don't. Okay, 1 second. Okay, how am I gonna? I just pulled the article up. How am I gonna explain this to you? Let's see. Well, I know what I'll do. I'll just kind of go through the body and kind of as I see stuff. So, okay, yeah. So we started with revision 1 of the back pressure metric, right? We started with revision 1. PEW Science, we started that, I think it was, what did I say? Was it 612 with a radiant? When I was like, okay. I had been looking at it before, but that was the first time I had published anything, and I was like, what am I going to consider? I'm going to consider time. The revision 1 of the back pressure metric, and this was for a lot of the reviews for the 30 caliber rifle silencer reviews, it only considered time. It was a really good thing, I think maybe what would be good for you, if you're sitting around and you're not driving right now, or you're not like mowing your grass, you maybe when you're listening to this, you could be looking at figure 1 in this research supplement in 640, because there's a plot of the Dead Air Sandman K, shot 2 of that test, back from last May. The shot 2 is there in impulse space. Okay, you got it. You're looking at it there. So that's impulse. Okay, that's not pressure. That's impulse. Okay, you see it? All right. So that I made a picture there. I took away the lines on the graph, and I just put the waveform, and I put a little red line there for you. Okay, I'm going to use that to explain. So the reason I made this picture is because I wanted to illustrate the constants that we're looking at, because there are constants that we have created to create a parametric space to illustrate back pressure. Okay, so at first, like I said, with revision 1, we were only looking at time. Now, so we're looking at time 0. That's when the impulse is 0, when there's no impulse accumulation, meaning there's no area accumulation under the pressure curve yet. The pressure curve is 0, the impulse curve is 0, everything's 0, time 0. So Rev 1, we were looking at the time it took to get to that, from that point to the time of maximum positive phase impulse accumulation, or the maximum value on that curve. Okay, and I computed that for every single silencer, and then I correlated that computation to flow restriction with adjustable gas blocks on weapons. Meaning, like, if I could say, oh, it took me 3 clicks open on this gas block to use this silencer, and it took me, I had to open the gas block 7 clicks, making the gas port size bigger with this silencer. So the first silencer has a higher flow restriction or higher back pressure because it's adding more dwell time to the system. The second silencer has lower back pressure or lower flow restriction because I need more gas to operate the weapon. It's adding less dwell time. So by directly relating those two things, I was like, oh, there's a correlation. We are correlating the time it takes from 0 to maximum peak impulse. We are correlating that to flow restriction. We are correlating that to added dwell time. We are correlating that to back pressure. And that's what I did. And it worked for a while. I mean, I was doing that with all the silencers. It was tracking pretty well. Honestly, I was a little surprised because it was so simple. I mean, I was using one dimension. I was using a one-dimensional parameter. I was using time, and I was like, maybe it's just adding dwell time, and it's like pretty close. I know it's going to be nonlinear, but maybe it's pretty close. I was like, okay, fair enough. It's just adding dwell time, fair enough. And I was like, that's kind of cool. But then I started noticing some weird anomalies. And when did I do that? I forget when I first started noticing it. But I started noticing it a few months ago, last year. And I started taking a closer look. And I thought, yeah, maybe we need to add more than just one-dimensional term. Maybe we need to look not only at the time it takes to get to maximum peak impulse, but we need to look at what value is at the maximum peak impulse. And so what would that mean? Well, that would mean we need to look at how high the impulse got and how fast it got there. Well, what does that mean? Well, that's a rate. Okay. That's a rate of change, not just a time of change. And so if you have very similar baffle designs, in two silencers, and you just look at the difference in the time it takes to reach maximum peak impulse, then it is coincidental that that corresponds to the back pressure change too. The reason why it's a coincidence is because when you have the same type of baffle and the same type of flow restriction, when you change the amount of baffles and even sometimes the orifice size, the change in the added time component it almost tracks with the change in amplitude resulting from the time. So you get lucky and your flow rate scales with the time. But what happens when you have different types of silencers? Like so different that like you're letting way more gas out in a certain way and the shape of your impulse curves change. Well, then you can't compare just the time because it's not going to scale correctly. So I kind of nipped that in the bud and I was like, okay, let's stop trying to correlate just the time. Let's just add another dimension. I'm not going too crazy. And like from the beginning, I wanted to make sure this was simple. So I was like, well, let's just add a dimension. We'll add amplitude. We'll add a rate. Okay. So that's what I did. And that's what Rev 2 is. And that's what I explained in the article. Now, if you look at figure 1 in the article, there's a plot there. I told you there's a red line there. Now, if you draw a line from time 0 to time at the peak, TM, you have a linear approximation of that rise to maximum peak impulse. You take it's not perfect, right? It's not the exact rate, because the exact rate you would average the slope you average the slope along all the whole line, right? The impulse, but you're not. You're just taking you're just drawing a straight line, because we want this to be simple. So it's a linear approximation, okay? And you take the slope of that linear approximation. You take the slope of that line, and remember, the slope of the line from your middle school or your high school math or whatever, whenever you took math, the slope of a line is the rise over the run, right? It's the amplitude over the duration. So that's impulse over time. Okay, that's impulse over time. Got it? Okay, so instead of looking at how fast it takes to get gas out of the silencer and how fast it takes to get to a point in the flow where the flow starts to slow down, we're now looking at the rate of gas flow until it starts to slow down. We're looking at the rate. So let me back up. I just realized something. Let me get water 1 second. So I've been talking about impulse, and you're like, wait, Jay, I forgot what impulse is. It's like, okay, well, impulse is the area under the pressure time curve, and because the pressure time curve varies with time, the impulse varies with time, and it's an accumulation, and I plot that. So I will go into the mathematics of that in a second, but I want you to understand. So that's impulse, right? So that's what we're looking at. So the postulation here for the back pressure metric is like, if you're building pressure outside the gun at a finite point in space, eventually you're going to run out of gas, right? You all agree? Like you're going to run out of gas. Well, when do you run out of gas? Well, you run out of gas when you're running out of propellant, because like you've burned all your propellant, and your muzzle blast is pushing the bullet, and the bullet leaves, and the muzzle blast keeps coming, and it keeps coming, and it keeps coming, and it keeps coming, it's pushing over your microphone. It's going. There's a positive phase. It's adding up net positive phase pressure so much that the impulse is accumulating. It's like, oh my God, there's so much momentum transfer potential of these particle velocity moving over this microphone. But eventually, the temperature changes, the particle velocity slows down. There's a lot of actually physical things happening that cause what we would term in measurement over a microphone rarefaction. Now, rarefaction is actually a physical phenomena, but what was actually occurring is over the microphone or over the sensor, you're getting negative pressure pulses caused by temperature delta and particle velocity changes. So that's very complicated, frankly, and we're only measuring at one point in space. But the good thing about the silencer sound standard is it's consistent. And so when the impulse waveform starts to go net negative, meaning that you've reached the maxima, you've reached the maximum positive phase impulse accumulation, once it starts to go negative, something has happened. And I guarantee you it has something to do with how much gas has come out of that silencer. Because if it didn't, it would just still keep going up. And that's what I figured out when I started doing this. I was like, dude, there is like a commonality here in these impulse waveforms. They all start to go negative, or they all reach a maximum at a different time, and it definitely correlates with how much gas is being trapped. It doesn't correlate with sound. It doesn't correlate with how quiet something is. It loosely does up top, but down low it doesn't. And that means that it's definitely flow rate dependent, and the harmonics aren't captured, meaning that like this is not a sound signature driven thing. This is a gas dynamic driven thing. Gas dynamics and sound signature are related, but they're not directly related. And that's why silencers are hard to make. Because if it were that easy, then everyone would have a quiet silencer. And they don't. Right? Remember? That's why we have things like the Omega baffle. It's not simple. We know how it works now, but you didn't know back then like how exactly what things were going to go down in Chinatown. So now that you understand the impetus for this entire theory, I can go on. Okay? The fact of the matter is something changes when we get to peak. And what is that? Loss of momentum. I know there's a temperature change too. For you physicists that are listening to this, and you engineers that might understand, there's a particle velocity change at the peak in air, and there's a temperature change. But the momentum is conserved. Because momentum is conserved, particle velocity matters. If particle velocity matters, and particle velocity slows down at the peak, that means flow rate has gone down. I don't know any other way for that. I don't see how it could not be true. And that's the hypothesis. And I'm not saying that I'm right necessarily, but I'm definitely saying that I don't think I'm wrong. Okay? And that's why I'm publishing this. And if someone wants to critique it, you can, because it's on the website. Okay, so it's right there. Let me see how I said it so I can tell you. Yeah, if you look at section 642, 6.40.2, it's in the second paragraph, and it's really fast that I say it, so it might get away from you if you don't read it right. It says, at the time of initial maximum peak impulse T sub m, rarefaction begins to overwhelm the net positive phase impulse accumulation from the muzzle blast overpressure P of T external to the weapon system as measured 1 meter left of the bare weapon muzzle or silencer end cap if equipped. It is postulated that T sub m is proportional to the time at which there's a significant reduction in flow rate from an unsuppressed or suppressed weapon system. That's my whole hypothesis right there in 2 sentences. That's what I just explained to you. That's what I just got done explaining to you, okay? Okay, so when you look at figure 1, that red line on the SAM-NK chart, on the shot 2 of the SAM-NK, and remember, I look at shot 2. We don't look at shot 1. I just got done explaining to you how the gas dynamics change. Why we never want to look at shot 1. What happens during shot 1, guys? First round pop. You don't want to mess with first round pop. Why? First round pop has more combustion. What is that going to do to our waveform? Well, it's going to make them go to peak faster. Why? Well, because there's more stuff burning. There's more momentum. It's louder. Too much. Exclude shot 1, and then you have constants. If you keep shooting and you don't wait too long and let that silencer fill back up, shots 2 through 5 are going to be very similar. And I've shown that in every single sound signature review in section 6 of the silencer sound standard. I've proven it beyond any doubt. I've proven how first round pop works in impulse space. Okay, everyone can see that. So that's proven. That's not even a hypothesis. That's real. That's already done. That's theory. That's PEW Science law. So So that's there. So when you look at figure 1, you're like, okay, you got that red line, you got the slope. We need that slope, right? That's revision 2 of the back pressure metric. It all boils down to that. It all boils down to that. So what is that? What is that slope? How do you get it? Well, I just told you. You got to integrate you got to get the area in the pressure time curve, and you got to draw the slope, and then you got to compute it. Well, how do you do it? What is that? What does it mean? Well, mathematically, it's equation 1 in the article. That's what that is mathematically. And this is to show you this is real. And this is to a lot of you that are like scientists and engineers, like you're going to see this and be like, oh my God, you're being so redundant right now. Boring. And I'll be like, okay, well, cool. But for those of you who have never seen this and want to know how to compute it yourself at home, maybe you're writing a computer program to do this yourself. Well, now you can because you have the equation. So this is math. So in equation 1, you see rho sub I sub S, rho sub I comma S. Okay, that's the initial impulse accumulation for a silencer, for a suppressed weapon system. That's what the S is for there. I picked the Greek letter rho because it seemed like a good letter. It's really not any reason. Oftentimes it's probably used for density. I decided to use it for impulse accumulation rate. I thought it looked cool, honestly. So here we are. I think I read like the Greek letter rho means something too. Like, I don't know. I don't speak Greek. But I do know I needed a Greek letter and it looked cool. So I picked rho. So there we are. Rho sub I. That's initial impulse accumulation rate. So that's what I picked. And you can see that the integral of the pressure function, you see that in the equation there, right? That I don't know. So this is calculus. So if you haven't taken calculus, it's okay. That's cool. You definitely don't need to understand it, but I can explain it to you really quick so you understand that this is not just hieroglyphics. That squiggly line, that weird looking, it looks like an S, but it's all stretched out. That's what's called an integral. Okay, so you're going to learn some calculus today on the podcast. It's no problem. It's easy. I promise. So it seems hard. It's not hard. Now, let me explain. The pressure history in all the reviews, like when you see the sound pressure in units of pascals, and they're bouncing up and down, and then they go to zero. That's the sound wave in pressure space. So if you were to march step by step by step on those waveforms on the curve, like pretend you were a little man and you were stepping, and you had stepping stones, and the only place you could step were at the individual points. Like let's pretend you started at 0 and then you started stepping, and you stepped on little points all the way from 0 to T sub m, where the point on the pressure curve would correspond to the same time on the peak of the impulse curve. What if you got all the way there? And you see on the squiggle there in the equation, you see T sub 0 comma S, and then you say T sub m comma S. You see? That's from 0 to T sub m. Okay, that's what we call the domain. That's the integration domain. That's the place where we're going. And if you were to march between those points on the pressure history and you added up every bit of area under that curve, you would get the answer to that squiggle. And that's the integral of a function in the time domain there. If you see a p sub end cap with parentheses t, that means it's a pressure function of time, meaning it's varying with time. And you see there's a dt there, right? That means that you're splitting up the marching orders of the dude walking on the curve. You know, your steps as you step through the curve, you're splitting them up into little bits, and they're each the size of your step. Each bit is the size of your step. Well, and what is the size of your step? The size of your step is dt in units of time. And then what's our step? Well, PewSoft has a step every microsecond. Right? Right. So that's what it is. Every microsecond, you accumulate a little bit of area by getting the area of the little polygon under the pressure curve bounded by the time step and the preceding time step. Little trapezoid every time. Boom, 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 boom. I literally just defined numerical integration to you. That's literally numerical integration, and that's how you get the impulse curve. So, I mean, duh, right? It's the integral into the pressure time curve. So, that's numerically impulse. Okay. So that integral, the squiggly line in equation 1 and equation 2, those squiggly lines with P of t dt, that's all that is impulse. That's a fancy calculus way of saying impulse from pressure. Okay? Cool. So you take all that, the impulse, right? And then you divide it by Tm. And then you get the slope of that line. Because all that stuff in the integral, all that was the maximum point of that line. And that was on the vertical axis. Peak impulse is the integral of from 0 to Tm of P of t dt. And then you just divide that by T sub m, which I took out of the integral because it's a constant. And then you get rho. Then you're done. You're literally done right there in equation 1. It's done. You're done. You got it. You got the slope of the line. Rho sub I, comma s. And so yeah, it's actually really simple visually. It's literally just the slope of that red line. It just looks funny in math space, in math language. Yeah, that's all that fancy stuff. It's actually really simple. But here's the math, so you can do it at home if you're a nerd. Okay, but I wanted to explain it to everybody, so you know, like, this is like not that complicated. Just you got to use your imagination. So equation 2 is exactly the same thing as equation 1, except it's for unsuppressed. Okay, so there's no silencer, but you still need the slope, right? You still need the slope. But that's how you get it, right? All it is, you get that integral. All it is you're integrating the pressure function over time, and then you're dividing it by T sub m. That's like literally all you're doing. It's super simple. Okay, cool. Got it? Okay, with me so far? All right, water break. All right, we're like almost an hour in, and I'm still talking about integrals. I'm never going to bed. Got it. Okay. So here's where this gets counterintuitive. Okay, I hope you're with me so far. It's about to get weird. It's not really weird, but it's a little weird. It's actually serendipitous cool, but if you don't understand, okay, so the next equation 3, if you don't understand equation 3, I would say probably the only way to show you how to derive it is to draw it, like draw the slopes of the lines. It's really useful to do this geometrically. If you're a visual person, deriving equation 3 geometrically is going to be easy for you. If you're not a visual person, I don't know how to help you with this. No, well, I guess I don't have time in this podcast to explain the math to you without a whiteboard, but I can give you some analogs to understand, which I think will help. The equation will look similar to some of you because it's also the mathematical relationship of voltage in a parallel circuit. No. Voltage? Resistance. I'm sorry. Did I say voltage? No, it is. Right? Well, either way. And it's because okay, well, sort of. What I had to do was I had to make up a term that would be the reciprocal of impulse accumulation. So it's more I said I meant resistance. It's like if you were trying to find the resistance of like a current loop in a parallel circuit, like you can't just like add them all up, right? Like you have to add the reciprocals, right? Well, why is that? Well, it's because the reciprocal of resistance is conductance, right? And so that's sort of like if I have impulse accumulation in my rho value, which is it's an analog for flow. So then, like, if the reciprocal of that would have to be back pressure or like flow restriction. Like, so if the reciprocal of resistance is conductance, Like it's the inverse, right? Because like if one thing goes up, the other one goes down. Like that's a reciprocal. Like when you have one over a value, you're like, so like okay, think about this, right? I'm like, okay, what is the slope of the red line? It's an impulse accumulation. Well, what did I make that an analog to? Or what did I assume in my hypothesis that I talked to you about particle velocity and temperature? What did I assume it was going to be? Well, I made the assumption that it was proportional to flow rate. Well, if I made a flow rate proportional to an impulse accumulation, what's the reciprocal of that? Well, it's a flow restriction. Because the higher the flow rate goes, the smaller the flow restriction would be. Because 1 over the flow rate would be like if you have a big number in the denominator of a fraction, it makes the whole thing get small. Right? Like 1/3 is smaller than a half. 1/4 is smaller than a third. 1/5 is smaller than a fourth. Right? It's like this is really rudimentary mathematics, but I need you to understand when the number on the bottom gets big, the whole number gets small. That's how fractions work. So the reciprocal, and I don't mean to be talking down to you, but I'm just trying to explain this real simple, like just so like you get what I'm saying. And so that's why 1 over rho sub I is basically flow restriction. Okay, and so it's so like I said, you do the same thing with resistance and conductance. And PEW Science, impulse accumulation is a combustion flow analog. It's the same thing. So it's like it's almost it's so if that's a combustion flow analog, you have the electrical circuit analog of parallel resistance, and you even have the stiffness relationships in elastic materials as well. That's another analog, mechanical analog. There are a lot of mathematical models and formulas and relationships that are used over and over again in different fields. And not to get too off topic, but the same differential equation that models your car's springs and shocks. It's the same equation that models the bolt carrier group in your AR. It's the same equation that models certain electrical circuits. The same math. It's the same math, guys. It's just we use math to explain relationships and we make models with them. That's it. So don't get too hung up on it. I'm telling you, the same math that runs your wristwatch is the same math that runs your car shocks. Literally the same equations with different letters in them. Like, I know some of you probably in college, you're taking differential equations right now. Like that, they're explaining this to you. Like that's why we use. I mean, it is what it is. Okay, it's just the way nature works. It's not magic. It's just that humans are good at making things simple when we need to. So that's what we're doing. All right. So the reciprocal of impulse accumulation or flow would be back pressure, and so I used a little omega for that. Equation 4. Yeah. So you basically you rewrite terms. Equation 4. I'm like, you know what? We have a reciprocal, and it's no longer rho because it's 1 over rho. Let's use omega, but let's not use the big omega yet. Let's use a baby omega, lowercase omega, and we got that. And then if we go back up to equation 3, now we don't have to use rho anymore. We use little omega. And now you can rewrite equation 3 in terms of omega. Well, then you get equation 5, big omega. And you get a big omega, and that's the little omega for the silencer minus the little omega for the unsuppressed weapon. And then you get relative back pressure. How about them apples? So that's equation 5 is the law, or the theory. Equation 5 is a theoretical back pressure metric omega. That's it. That's beautiful, baby. Equation 5 right there. That's omega sub cal. It's omega. So then I thought about it. I said, hey, if this is right, I was doing this literally on like the back of like a piece of paper. Like I was like, if this is omega, that means that those silencer companies that say that they have zero back pressure, well, Well, I can show what that would mean mathematically. If something really had zero back pressure, well, I can tell you about that, no problem. Because now we have back pressure mathematically measured from physical quantities. So what would it look like if back pressure was zero? Well, that would mean omega sub cal comma s, the back pressure, the silencer back pressure for a certain caliber for a silencer, that would mean that would be equal to the unsuppressed state. In other words, the silencer back pressure would be equal to the unsuppressed back pressure. Or if you want to go back to equation 3 to like go deeper, you want to go to the rho terms, to the slope terms, that would mean that the slope of that would mean the rate of impulse accumulation out of the silencer would be the same as the rate of accumulation out of an unsuppressed gun, which would mean that gas is getting out at the same flow rate as unsuppressed. Well, that would mean zero back pressure. So equation 5 would need to be 0. Well, how do you get 0? How on earth could you make that 0? Well, omega sub cal sub s would have to be 0. Oh, I'm sorry. No. The whole thing would have to be 0. So omega sub cal sub s would have to equal the unsuppressed. So I used another math thing called a limit. So what's called a limit? So that's equation 6. There's it says LIM, that's a limit. So it's like the limit of omega, if omega is a function of baby omega, as the baby omega goes from the silencer to the unsuppressed, it means that it's that basically, if that happened, if you made the silencer back pressure approach unsuppressed back pressure, then your overall back pressure would be 0. So equation 6 is basically a fancy way of saying zero back pressure. It's like, so again, big omega is a function of little omega for the silencer. If your little omega for the silencer approaches the little omega for the unsuppressed gun, then big omega is 0. That makes back pressure 0. That's all that is. I just said it in math, and I'm saying it in English. Okay. So you with me? Probably not. It's fine. Okay. So now you got to realize, guys, after all this said, you got to realize all these things are empirical. So they're from measurement, and that it makes them super cool because you can get them. You can get the quantities, and they become constants, and you can use them. And the more you measure, the more you have. You can keep measuring that. How do we get physical constants in nature? How did you get these constants that you use for your physics classes and stuff? Well, they came from measurement, guys. I mean, like eventually you could compute them, but like most of them came from measurement when they first were discovered. So that's what these constants are that I've made here, defined now. And the cool thing about constants is the more you measure, the more you get. It's really cool. And so I made some sample tables for you to look at, and I have rho sub u 762. That's like the initial impulse accumulation rate of an unsuppressed weapon system with a 762. And I was like, well, that's like on a 20-inch bolt action, for example, could be 1. And then I have a bunch of those already. And then I did that. That's for unsuppressed. And then that's table 1. And then table 2, it's like, well, you can do that for silencers too, for like all different calibers and silencers and cartridges and blah, blah. And like I put a sample there, like that's what you would call that. And so like I have a bunch of those. And so I have tables of these cataloged in like my database. I mean, they're not public. Like I'm not giving you all the numbers. They're mine. Like they're in my database. But so those are mine. But I'm just letting you know I have them. But these are the tables one can make. Okay, this is easy. Like you can do that. You don't need me for this. Okay, you can do this yourself. It's all there. Like everything the Silencer Sound Standard is there. You can all do this by yourself. You don't need me. But I'm doing it for you because I know it's hard for you. So, okay. So, yeah. So by using those numbers, you can get the big chart in figure 2. Okay? You can get the big chart in figure 2. And this is the pay dirt. This is the big daddy. This is big time. This is the thing. I said, okay, I'm going to plot all this stuff on a picture. And I was like, dang, those numbers are too small. The numbers are too small. Omega's too small. Like, damn. And I didn't want to like use exponents. I was like, that's ugly. So I was like, well, I'll just multiply everything by 10. I mean, it's my metric. I'll just multiply everything by 10. And so then I did. And then I put a times 10 on the horizontal axis in the label there. You can see? You see it's in units of 1 over Pascal. Remember, it's a reciprocal. You know what I should do? Oh my gosh. You know what I almost did, guys, but I didn't do because like I didn't really think about it hard enough. Like, you know how like I said that like electrical resistance is ohms. And like the reciprocal of resistance is conductance, right? Well, there's a unit they made for the reciprocal of ohms. It's like the Siemens or oh, I'm going to Google it because hold on, guys. Units of conductance, not conductivity, but conductance. Siemens. Yeah. And mathematically, it's the reciprocal of resistance. Okay, dude, look at the big brain on Jay. I totally remember that. It's been a long time since I even took my electrical engineering classes. It was a long time ago. It's like literally, what year is it? Yeah, it's like 16, 17 years ago, 18 years ago, almost 20 years ago. Yeah, probably about almost 20 years ago now. So yeah, it's been a while. But so the reciprocal of ohms would be Siemens. So I was thinking to myself, well, the reciprocal of Pascal's, well, that's my back pressure metric. Should I come up with a unit? I was thinking, after this gets adoption, maybe I call it the PEW or something, or like, but it's not like a PEW. I would think maybe the PEWs would be like at first I was like, well, maybe the suppression rating needs a unit. And I was like, well, that's different because technically the suppression rating is a dose parameter. So that can't really, I mean, that could be a unit, but it would be involved with like, deflection of like membranes in your ear. But anyway, I digress. But like but yeah, so I was like, oh man, I should totally like make the back pressure metric have a unit of PEW, or like, I don't know what would be a cool like flowies or something. Like, oh, that's a flowy thing. That's stupid. I don't know. I need a cool unit name. Maybe we'll do a contest to name it. But for right now, it is mathematically Pascal to the -1, just like resistance, like in conductance. Like conductance is really it's really ohms to the -1, but they call that Siemens. So it's like, well, maybe back pressure could be something like, what's Pascal's to the -1? Maybe I should research that. Maybe there's already a quantity and like I don't even know it. It's like the reciprocal of pressure. Like, what is that? I'll Google that. Hold on. Reciprocal of pressure. No. What is the inverse of pressure? Is this like a Zoolander quote? No. I mean, we're talking about volume. I mean, you're talking about volumetric changes. I don't know what it would be called. I don't know. And you know what? This might be something for another time. I haven't researched because there's gas laws that use it. Of course. I don't know. I don't know. Because it's related to volume. I don't know I don't think there's a unit for that. It's like I guess volumetric expansion. Would that be? Like, the more I think about it, what is a back pressure? I don't know. I don't know. It's transient too. It's a fat. I don't know. I do know that that's what it is, and we need a name, so we'll figure that out. So, it's kind of weird. So I multiplied it by 10, so all the numbers would line up, like meaning like they wouldn't have too many decimal points after the decimal. That's basically why I multiplied it by 10, and so it worked out really well. And I plotted all these silencers on here, and there's a lot of them. And so what I did is I try to make it pretty easy to read, and I did that with the 10 factor, and it worked surprisingly well, and it worked so well that I almost knew it had to be right. When you look at what I use a semi-log scale, meaning that only one of the axes is on a log scale. I made the vertical axis a simple unitized step function, which it was just one tick per silencer, and it was linear. So that's all that is. But the horizontal axis is logarithmic. And so I didn't bother going below 0.02 because the Sandman K was a little above that, and in omega, and that's the lowest omega metric so far for these 30 caliber silencers. So I was like, well, look, if you go to 0, it's 0 back pressure. So like that's unsuppressed. So I was like, well, and you can't plot 0 on a log scale. You can't. It doesn't have a meaning. So it's like, well, like, okay, you guys know that. Like, this is another math. We're heavy on the math today, but another way to say like logarithm is the exponent of base, whatever base you're in, to give you x. So like when I'm in log, I'm usually like log base 10. So like if I have like log base 10 of 1, if I have like a logarithm of 1, that would be 0, because you're like the exponent of 10 to give you 1 is 0. So if you know what I mean? Like if I raise 10 to the 0 power, I get 1. Like that's just the law of exponents. And so if I had log of 0, that would be the exponent of 10 to give me 0. Well, there's nothing there. It's undefined, because there is no exponent of 10 to give you 0. Like you can't raise a number to any power to get 0. You can't get 0 from raising a number by an exponent. Like it just doesn't work. You get really close to 0, but you can't get 0. There's a discontinuity. Like if you plotted the function, you can't get there. It's a asymptotic rule. So yeah, we don't go to 0 because you'll break math. Okay, got it? Okay, cool. That's why there's no 0 on that chart. But it is there. Like below, like when if you were to go to 0 on the back pressure metric, you would be theoretically at 0 back pressure, but that doesn't exist. Okay? It's not real. The limit is there. Like I have the equation, but the 0 back pressure isn't real. It doesn't exist. And by the very nature of this, and that's why if anyone claims they have a 0 back pressure silencer, they're lying. Why are they lying? Well, because it's mathematically impossible in accordance with the parameters we're measuring. Experimentally, it's impossible according with these parameters. Now, if you want to say it's not, well, then prove it. But the burden of proof's on you, not me. Okay. Because we've already done this. So it's like your turn, you know what I mean? So I don't get out of here with that 0 back pressure stuff. I don't want to hear it. All these people saying the 0 back pressure, no. Show me the math, and I'll believe you. Okay. It's impossible. Now, you see all the silencers there. Okay. There are 24 silencers on the chart. Look how beautiful it is. Isn't it beautiful? So I made this. I was like, gosh, these are definitely grouped. Seems reasonable. Let's name them. Let's name the groups. So I called them zones. I did this really quickly. I didn't really give a lot of thought to it. I think it's pretty good, though. I knew down low, I said, okay, you're going to have silencers that barely mess with a gun. We know that just from like using them, right? And we know from anecdotal reports that the Helios QD vented end cap and the OSS, which that's topic 2 in this podcast that we'll get to eventually here. and we know the OSS stuff, that we know those two silencers have really similar back pressure. We just know they do. We know it mathematically here, and we know it in experience. And so, but we also know that there have been more reports of the OSS not influencing the gun than the vented Helios. We have had reports of the vented Helios influencing the gun a little bit more than OSS. Rarely, but there are some reports. And it just so happened, and this is crazy, but cool. It's cool that we see it. It just so happened there was, in fact, a difference in omega for those two configurations. Isn't that crazy? They're both 0.05, but like because the graph's only showing 2 decimal places only showing 2 decimal places, and so there's rounding, but like they're both 0.05. Isn't that weird? Isn't that crazy? And that's why I multiplied times 10, because I was like, I don't want you guys to get caught up in this minutia. It's like, I don't want to bring this out to like 100 freaking, decimal points or whatever. And like, I don't want to do that. I just want to, all right. And I want it to be pretty simple. And that's another reason why I made zones. I was like, we need zones so like we can group silencers and not get super neurotic about this. But the differences are measurable, and they do make a difference on some weapons. And so I don't dismiss this. Okay, but it does make a difference. So that's what I did. I was like, okay, well then, I'm gonna draw a line at 0.05 then, because that's where something's happening. We've seen it happen. I was like, something's different enough where I'm gonna draw a line there. Okay, cool. Nice round number, seemed reasonable. Well, then I was like, where's my next zone going to be? I was like, 0.07 seemed reasonable because, I don't know. It just did. I was like, down low, it seems like there's like a delineation in some of these. So I put 0.07, and then I got to 0.1. I was like, well, I got to use 0.1. Seemed to be twice 0.05, frankly. I was like, that seems reasonable. And I added a line there, and it captured the Salmon S. It captured the Resonator K, the Hyperion K in the same group. It seemed reasonable. 0.1 seemed reasonable. Then, what do we get there to after that? We get to conventional baffles. We get to conventional curved cone with a few baffles, right? Rugged Razor, the Surefire, Trash Panda, Radiant. 0.2 seemed reasonable for another cutoff. It's like, okay, next cutoff, 0.2. Literally walking you through how I made this like zone system. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. These lines don't matter. Okay, they only matter in that they're grouping for you, like for you to think about it. Like it's not. You need to like think more about like the relations of silencers to each other, because that's what matters to you. Like you're gonna have a feel for that, and we know how we don't know how every silencer performs in every gun, but we certainly know how a lot of them perform on some guns. And the fact that this metric is related and constant for all silencers, or rather computable for all silencers, means that we can group them. So that's what I'm doing. Okay, so we went to 0.4, which was twice 0.2, right? So we have zone cutoffs at 0.05, 7, 0.1, 0.2, 0.4. Okay, 0.4, you're capturing a bunch of stuff. Okay, you have your harvester, your short surge, your omega. Okay, and then once you get past 0.4, then you're getting really into stuff that's pretty restrictive. Okay, and we know this. You're getting the Salmon L, the Salmon TI. Those are pretty similar silencers, but they have different mounting, and that's why they're different. They have different flow restriction. And then you get the Surge, Thunder Chicken. These are really long and quieter silencers. So they're what's the mechanisms of suppression? They're trapping gas. That's how they work. Okay, that's the principal way that those two silencers work. Actually, they're not fancy. Those are just gas traps. That's how they work. And so then Then we get to 1. I was like, well, 1's a perfect number. We're definitely gonna draw a line there. Well, what happens after that? Well, then you're getting into some wild stuff. Then you're getting into stuff that's like it's trapping gas like it's like there's no tomorrow. Super efficient gas traps. What's a super efficient gas trap? Thunder Beast Ultra 9, CGS Hyperion. By a mile, they trap gas. How do you know? How long does it take to get to maximum flow out of that silencer? Or rather, that's a bad way to say that. How long does it take to get the gas out of that silencer? A long freaking time. What's the rate at which it comes out? Really slow. Does that make it quiet? Absolutely it does. And therefore, how high are the omega values for the Ultra 9 and the Hyperion? Well, omega's almost 1.3, Hyperion's above 2.3. When you send gas into a Hyperion, you know what happens? What did I tell you happens? It goes into a black hole. The gas can't get out of the Hyperion. It sends it into a coaxial chamber immediately. It recombines halfway down the freaking silencer. You're not getting gas out of that silencer, dude. You're just not. It traps gas really, really well. Like really well. When gas gets high pressure in the Hyperion, it's able to get out of the way and let other gas be trapped. And then that gas gets trapped, and you know what happens when it pressurizes? It gets out of the way and more gas gets trapped. Same thing with the Ultra 9. Same thing with the Omega baffle. Like the Omega 300, you see how it's down at in Omega Zone 5 there? And I'm going to talk to you about Omega Zones in a second here. It's at 0.33 Omega. The Omega 300 has a 0.33 Omega. Silencer Code's not going to be happy about that. That I'm using their name. That's fine. It's not really theirs. The 0.33 would be way higher if the Omega was longer. It's really good at trapping gas. It's a great, great, great silencer because it uses Omega baffles. It's really good. And I tell you what, well, kind of Omega baffles. What's really good is if you made that longer, it would be awesome. It would be so quiet. It'd be so quiet, dude. But yeah. It would be, that's right. It would be kind of like a rugged surge, but the rugged surge is less advanced because they couldn't use some of the patent. Anyway, it's good though. But yeah, so yeah. That's how back pressure works. You trap gas, you build back pressure. This is a very, very good conversation to have because in topic 2, I'm going to teach you about something else. So yeah, so that's how silencers work, most of them, and that's why you see on the chart what you see. And the more gas the silencer traps, the higher the back pressure it is. And sometimes silencers are quieter, even though they don't trap that much gas. And where do you see those silencers? Those silencers are typically down in zones 5 or below. Now, are these groups set in stone? No. I mean, there's 7 groups here that I kind of defined for you. There's 7 groups. They're all defining weapon function. Are they set in stone? No, they're not. Is the metric set in stone? Yes. The metrics math, it's not up for debate because it's a quantity that's measured and calculated. Whether or not you agree with where the zone lines are, talk amongst yourselves, dude. I don't care what you call it. I don't care what you call what zone. I don't care. Move those lines wherever you want, dude. But it's going to depend on your weapon. The lines are a guide, but the numbers are what they are, and they're not changing because they are measured. And they mean something. Trust me. I guarantee you, if you have high omega on some weapons, you're going to have a bad time. And it's a function of the weapon. So if you have a Silencer Co. Omega 300 or a Rugged Surge, they are they're in a higher zone than the Sam AK and the OSS stuff. Why is that? They have higher back pressure. I don't care what you think you know about the back pressure of these silencers. If it has a higher omega, it has higher back pressure. I don't care what you think you know about. Any time someone tells you that a silencer with a bigger volume will have lower back pressure, tell them they have no idea what they're talking about. Like that is not true. That is simply not true. That is a complete fallacy, and I don't know where that came from. It's like someone's equating like expansion volume to like, it's like someone thought this was like, I don't know what they thought. I think they thought like this was way bigger volumes than we're dealing with in silencers. Like, these are silencers, right? Like these aren't like, this isn't a room, dude. And the volume, your baffles are like right there. Like you're not sending flow into like a half your silencer that's empty. Like, what are you doing? Like, if volume mattered, if overall volume mattered, you could put a Thunder Chicken or a Nomad L on a gun, and you wouldn't even have to tune the gun. You wouldn't even have to tune the gun, dude. Instead, you get gassed out super easy if the weapon isn't tuned. And you can test this yourself. Say it with me. Volume does not influence back pressure of silencers. It doesn't, dude. I mean, all other things equal, maybe. All other things equal, but not for different silencers. Like you can't compute it like that. It doesn't work. I have it's flow rate. Flow rate influences the back pressure of silencers. I have a Thompson Machine SG. It's 12 inches long and 2 inches in diameter. That thing will make a B&T TP9 overfunction. That is a 2-inch diameter, 12-inch long silencer. That is bigger than any silencer you own. I don't think any of you have a silencer that big that's listening to this right now. Any of you have a 12-inch long silencer that's 2 inches in diameter? No, you don't. Not even Bauer silencers are that big. Oh, that's not true. That's not true. Bauer's might have some weird stuff like that. So yeah, maybe some of you do. Maybe some of you old school Mac guys. But yeah, dude, you guys don't have those. Come on, man. Nothing to do with volume. It's flow rate. Okay. So I hope this helps you. I know it's like really in depth. I spent an hour or whatever. How long did I spend? Oh, I spent over an hour talking about this. It's complicated. In the initial assumption is kind of weird, but I'm pretty sure it works. No one has sent me anything to say that chart's wrong. And I'm looking forward to someone throwing stones. No one has. So yeah. Cool, right? So now let's keep talking back pressure. Let's talk about how what you can do with it. Let's talk OSS. All right. Topic 2 at time of, I'm so tired. 1 hour. Holy crap, dude. 1 hour, 28 minutes, 43 seconds. This is not the best idea I ever had to do this all in one episode. Okay. Stand by. Okay, guys. All right. Let's see. Topic 2. Now, excuse me. Sound signature review 641. The OSS HX-QD 762 on Supersonic 308. Okay. How crazy was this data, guys? How crazy was this? It's fitting, right? Back pressure discussion. Let me go ahead and go to the review. Oh my goodness gracious. I hope I do this justice. I'm really tired. So like, I hope if I have to come back and do it again, I'll just do it again. I'll do it better. Okay. I don't even know where to start. Okay. Let me start talking about how some silencers work, because I've spoken a lot about this on the podcast, and I think some people miss some things. And frankly, I just had a guy right before I started recording this message me because I said something nice about OSS quality and Surefire quality and rugged quality and CGS quality in Instagram story, because people were, and because I just got that Surefire silencer in, right? And like I was talking about how, man, I was so impressed with the fit and finish of this Surefire silencer. And I was like, you know who else has good quality? Like rugged and CGS and OSS. And the reason OSS was in my mind was because I just reviewed it, and it's on my desk and I've been handling it. I'm like, this is such a really interesting silencer. And I noticed that it was pretty good quality. Like I shot like a brand new out of the box silencer, and so I had the opportunity to unpackage it. So yeah, like right before this podcast, some guy was like, I thought you hated OSS. And I was like, I don't think I once ever said that I hated OSS, nor did I ever say anything negative about them. But I did express some very critical opinions about flow-through technology for sure. And I'm going to talk about that right now. I'm going to explain it to you so you understand why. And because this is it's very important to use context here. So let me talk about how a silencer works, and then we can kind of break this down. So the way a silencer is supposed to work in general is it is delay gases from exiting so they can cool, exit more slowly, and then you don't have a violent muzzle blast interacting with the atmosphere, right? Fair enough? Okay. That's simple. That's how silencers work, by and large. Now, the reality is, if you want to get really technical, which you know I'm going to, the reality is there are other things that occur. Just by the very act of delaying the gas exit. Just by the act of delaying the exit, there's things that happen. Now, you are using up energy in a variety of ways with the gas. And now, what if you wanted to let the gas out faster to increase the flow rate through the silencer? We just got done talking about back pressure for over an hour. See, you already know what back pressure is. You literally, mathematically and physically, you know what back pressure is, especially if you listen to other episodes. So what if we wanted to let the gas out faster to increase the flow rate? What if you wanted to do that, but you didn't want it to be loud? How would you do that? Okay, well, guess what? I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. I don't care what you think I said. I'm going to say it again now. It is not possible. There's absolutely no way to make a quiet silencer with extremely low back pressure. It's just not possible. It can't be done. The very act of restricting gas flow makes a silencer quiet. So therefore, you can't have a quiet silencer without restricting gas flow. It's not possible. Now, what if instead, what if you didn't have to make the silencer quiet? What if you just had to make it quiet enough? See what I mean? How quiet could you get? How quiet can you get? What is the threshold of quiet while maintaining a relatively high flow rate, or at least a flow rate high enough that the weapon system doesn't really care that much? I don't know what that limit is, guys. I do not know what that limit is. But you don't either. I don't care who's listening. I don't care if OSS is listening or any of you wizards. No one knows what the limit is. We haven't found it yet. That's the answer. And I'll tell you what, there is one. There is a limit. And so let's talk about it. So if a silencer isn't restricting flow a lot to be quiet, what's it doing? So all silencers restrict flow. Some restrict flow less than others. The ones that are doing it better and being more quiet, well, what are they doing? Okay, well, you got to make the gas do work. You're going to have to do a couple things. You might need to send it through some arduous paths that don't restrict the flow, but they shed the flow. They continuously break apart the flow. They shed heat from the flow. They make the gas work. They're using energy. Can you do that? Can you shed enough heat and energy from a gas flow to radically change the way it behaves when it enters the atmosphere? Can you do that? How long? How long can you make your flow path? How long can the path be in a tube? What tricks would you use to do that? What tricks? OSS uses some tricks. They do, and they're clever. It's clever. This is Helix. It's called the Helix. This HX-QD 762 is the model designation that I tested. It is not a traditional silencer. Frankly, although I knew how it was supposed to work, I reserved judgment until I tested it. I know that you can shed heat and energy off a gas stream. Like, that's just physics. What I didn't know was how much you could do in a package the size of a normal rifle silencer. That I didn't know. I want to take the mystery out of this, guys. This isn't magic. So that's why I'm explaining how this works. And I haven't talked to OSS yet, so about this. I am going to go meet with the OSS. I have scheduled a meeting with them, but I have not talked with them yet. So this is just me and what I see, okay? Now, restricting flow is fairly well done, really, and it's well understood by a lot of companies, frankly. And shedding energy and letting the flow continue, that's a little different, and that's the goal of the OSS stuff, and it actually works way better than I thought. It's not as quiet, though. It's not quiet. But it's not nearly as loud as some other stuff on the market that has way higher back pressure, which means that their product actually works, which I think is one of the biggest pleasant surprises to me since I started doing this. You know, I'm losing my voice now. Okay, so back to the silencer. It is it's kind of heavy. It is. Where is it? I had it on my desk. Oh, here it is. Okay. I'm holding it right now, and I got the little muzzle device. I really like the mount, the muzzle device. I'm going to screw it in. It's left-hand threaded. Yeah. I just want to hold it with its whole weight. So I think, what did I say in the article? 22.9 ounces. So yeah, 23 ounces basically. It's not light. But there's a titanium version that's freaking almost 5 ounces lighter. So what does that get you? Down to 18 ounces or so. So that's cool, right? I think it's cool. It's pretty light. So yeah, I tested it with a flash hider mount. It's like I said, the mount's cool. It's left hand threaded to the silencer, and it has a taper. Really cool. Really super easy to use. Super simple. Actually, this is one of the few mounts I've had absolutely no problems with. It has a taper in front of the threads, like would be reasonable. Seems very smart. And the threads are coarse, which is great. The threads are really coarse. That is so much better than a fine thread. Like, that is so dumb to have fine threads. Like the Cherry Bomb, I think those threads are way too fine. They get dinged and you're screwed. Like, I think that this coarse thread is awesome. The taper's doing the work. Why would you have a fine thread? It doesn't make any sense to me. So this is cool. I don't know. Maybe there's a reason why Q did that. Oh, you know what? Maybe it's because... No, they're taper seals. I don't know why they did that. Anyway, so this is cool. I really like the mount. If you look at the back of it, they like drilled holes to reduce weight because they don't need the strength there. It's pretty simple, dude. Really simple mount. Really simple. Like, deceptively simple. And it won't get stuck in the silencer because it's left-hand threaded, because you can just loosen it as you would tighten it to the barrel, right? So like if you're if you are, if you're, let's say let's say the mount's stuck in the silencer, and then like all you would have to do was then like thread it to the barrel and then like keep turning it to the right, and it would unscrew because it unscrews because it's left-hand threaded, so it unscrews to the right, and the silencer or the mount screws onto the barrel to the right. You feel me? So like that's really cool. Like I like that. I think that doesn't the Dead Air Xenomorph do that? I can't remember. I haven't used the Dead Air thing, but theoretically, that's cool. Just a bit benefit. And when you do, and it's cool, and it doesn't matter for installation with proper torque, so that doesn't matter because once you torque it, that doesn't matter at all. But I like for people who test silencers like me, I don't torque the muzzle device on when I test the silencer. Like that's way too much time. So I just kind of snug it on. So it was welcome. It's welcome to me. I like when it really from attaching it and detaching it from the gun, like it doesn't I didn't have a problem like with the host weapons. Like, and I tested on a couple different 30 caliber platforms. So like, I don't know, man. I just, after a long day of testing and you're testing the gun and you're putting stuff on, taking them off, putting them on, putting them off, and like a lot in one sitting, like I'm just like, yes, dude, OSS, thank you. Like, I mean, that's really not, it's probably not applicable for you as the listener or the consumer, but it is cool. It might be for you. I like when I screwed it all the way in, it's flush with the back of the silencer. It doesn't protrude at all. So it's very clean. It's a very clean installation. I just like that. I don't know. It's high quality. It seems to machine well. I don't know, man. I don't know. I just never hear a lot about these silencers. So I figured I should tell you. I think it's kind of cool. So yeah, there's that. One thing that was weird and it caught me by surprise is like I went to tighten it on the barrel, like the muzzle device itself, and I was like, well, oh crap, where are the wrench flats? And then I realized like the entire thing has wrench flats, so I just use an adjustable wrench. It's like, that's weird. It's like, so there's that. So yeah, the entire tines of the body of the flash hider thingy are wrench flats. Pretty simple. So numbers wise, suppression rating wise, you got a 35.1, guys. Like that's 34th the year on this platform. What? Supersonic 308? What? Guys, this is way quieter than I thought it would be. It is way quieter than I thought it would be. And I'm going to go to the rankings right now on PEWScience.com, section 7 of the Silencer Sound Standard. I'm going to go to ammunition 308. I'm going to sort only by 308. I'm going to go down. I'm going to sort by ear suppression rating. Sort. Of course, you got the Hyperion at the top. Whatever. Okay, we're going to go down to, the OSS is down there, 34. Okay, not too bad. I mean, there are a lot of silencers that are quieter to the shooter on this platform than the OSS, sure, but guess what? The OSS is quieter than some too. What is the OSS quieter than? Well, to the shooter, well, it's quieter. It's quieter than the Harvester. It's quieter than the Trash Panda. It's quieter than the Radiant. It's quieter than the Sam NS. Quieter than the short configuration of the Rugged Surge. It's quieter than the Vox. And it ain't just quieter at the freaking ear, dude. It's quieter than at the muzzle than those silencers. This silencer is quieter overall than all of the silencers. Harvester, Trash Panda, Radiant, Sam NS, short configuration of the Surge, Vox. You're quieter, dude, with the OSS than all those. And that means this works. And that's a 20-inch bolt gun, dude. That's not even an AR yet. I don't know, guys. Like manufacturers, I'm gonna put this mountain here. Well, no, I'm not gonna store it like that because I won't be able to. Okay, put it right here. I'm gonna put it down. Manufacturers need to be looking at this, guys. I don't know, man. You're every person that I've talked to now that owns one of these Helix things, like I have been avoiding talking to people about this. I didn't want to know anything about it. other than like just general stuff I see before I tested it, dude, everyone that owns one of these silencers that has talked to me says that they think it sounds good. And I was speaking with some industry guys that look at a lot of silencers. They're not manufacturers, and they said they never have thought that they never thought these OSS silencers sounded bad. Like, and they were telling me this like before I even published this data. So no one knew what the data was. Like, no one knew what the sound signature, what the suppression rating was. They didn't know what the sound signature review was going to say. They didn't have peak dB numbers. They didn't have hearing damage risk. They had nothing from me. I didn't tell them anything. And all these people were telling me they liked their silencer and they thought they sounded great. And these are owners, these are distributors, everything. I was like, really interesting. And I was like, this is really interesting to me. I double checked the data. I tested the TI version, the titanium version, very similar sound suppression. And this is brand new silencers, guys. I'm testing brand new, like this is brand new out of the box silencers. Like shout out to, you know who you are. I'm not even going to say your name. When I secured these silencers for testing, I had to do so covertly because there was like a political embargo that we don't need to go into, but no one knew I had these. And then I did them. And thank you to the gentleman who provided these to me. Brand new in box, dude. Like they were drop shipped to me, like from his distributor. And like I tested these. Like no one knew I tested these. Like OSS didn't know I tested them. Like nobody knew. And so I tested brand new silencers right out of the plastic in little boxes, and so that means they were clean. And hey, I got news for you: when a silencer gets dirty, you're gonna fill little nooks and crannies with debris, but also what are you doing? You're increasing surface roughness due to deposits. What does that do? It takes energy to overcome during flow. That's what it does. You get energy loss due to roughness, don't you? That's right. What's really cool about the OSS silencers, this is something that's really important. And if you look in, and this is, I'm going to blow your mind, I think. If you look inside the OSS silencers with a borescope, you're going to see a lot of little ridges, right? They're passing flow over the ridges. And they're using the ridges as surface roughness to create loss. You're getting you're getting energy loss. They're literally creating energy loss. So their primary objective, OSS is their primary objective. And keep in mind, I have not spoken with them about this. Like what I'm saying, this is entirely due to my own observations with and using a borescope and looking at drawings that I see on the internet, like their patent I looked at. I didn't read it, but I looked at pictures. What they're doing is they're sending gas down in the silencer, and they're sending it along as long a path as possible. And they're robbing energy along the whole path. Okay, they used the envelope of the silencer to the maximum they could for the weight, I think. I think that's what they did. So we need to get more into the review. Let me I think if it were me, let me go back to the review here. Like if it were me and I had unlimited money for something like this, like if I wasn't making a silencer, what I would do, I would probably make the silencer as long as I could and as light as I could and put it back over the barrel. This goes back to that listener question we had last time about what's the advantage of reflex silencers back over the barrel. Well, this is one advantage I thought of. I thought of more about your question, sir or ma'am. I was thinking about this though. I was thinking I would make the silencer as long as I could and as light as I could. I put it back over the barrel. And what I would do that because I would want the longest length I could possibly have to do the thing I was doing. The way the OSS design works, you want the longest lengths you can. Another way to do this would be to make it like 2 inches in diameter. And then you could keep the same length as they have now, but they'd make it 2 inches in diameter, and then they'd send flow back and forth more. The challenge which they may have run into, I haven't talked to them about this yet. The challenge is eventually creating flow restriction by doing that, because that's what the OSS silencer is doing, right? It's flow enters the silencer and it goes over all these paths that rob energy, all these like rough paths that rob energy, and then it goes back, and then it goes forward, and then it goes back, and then it goes forward. It's going along basically cavities, and it's like it's flowing through a long path, and every time it flows through the path, it's using energy. But what happens? Eventually, you're going to start to the flow is going to slow down, and it's going to start to build up pressure. They do their best not to. They're balancing it, but it does build up pressure. And what does that do? Well, it builds flow restriction. So it does actually create a flow restriction. The OSS silencer does have back pressure. It's just really low back pressure. Okay, and this is like it works just really way differently than other silencers do. And so their challenge is going to be, if I see a challenge in them or anyone doing this, the challenge is what you don't want to do is create too much flow restriction by going back and forth. It looks like they balanced it pretty well. So, okay. So, I'm just skipping the review. So before talking about the impulse waveforms, I want to talk about the back pressure, just like the bottom line. Okay. I'm going to scroll in the review to figure 7. And this was also in the back in the research supplement 640. The omega metric, which I just got done explaining to you how the omega metric works. The omega metric for the HX-QD 762 is 0.05. That's really low. It's super duper low. And why is it not 0.02 like the SAM NK? Well, I mean, because the SAM NK is almost not a silencer. That's not true. That's not fair to say. It is a silencer. It's just it's really loud. It's one of the loudest rifle silencers that you can buy. The SAM NK, and the rugged Radiant in the short configuration is actually a little quieter at the muzzle than the SAM NK, which is it makes you wonder what the heck is going on. But the SAM NK is longer, so it puts it a little further from your ear. And so the Radiant losses at the ear, or I'm sorry. Well, I would say there are some the Radiant is a little bit louder at the ear. It's a little bit louder at the ear than the SAM NK because of sound field geometry, but like whatever, dude. The bottom line is that the OSS barely increases back pressure over the almost non-existent back pressure of the SAM NK and the short Radiant, and it devastates those two silencers in suppression rating, dude. Like, it's not even close. Like, the OSS, it's not even close, man. It's not even close. It's like the OSS, like sending flow back and forth continuously like it does in these channels, adding up energy losses from surface roughness and ridges every time, boom, 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 back and forth. It's literally dumping enough energy before vent to be significantly quieter than the SAM NK, a full category rating at the ear or lower. A full category rating. And have back pressure that's barely higher than the SAM NK. It's crazy. It's crazy. Right? I think that's pretty wild. So, if I had to sum up the OSS Helix stuff, like compared to this dead air stuff, I would say the OSS, I think, built a better mousetrap. I think that's what they did. If balancing suppression rating and back pressure were mice, OSS is catching way more mice. Like mouse genocide. Seriously. And like you look at the CGS Helios. The CGS Helios has about the same back pressure as the as this OSS, right? Basically flows pretty similarly, but it can't suppress as well. Why? Why is that? It lets flow out about the same rate as the OSS, but why can't it be as quiet? Why is it loud? Why is the vented Helios loud? What is happening in the annulus of the CGS Helios? Nothing. Nothing's happening in the annulus. How much surface roughness and channels are in there? I don't know, actually. I think it's just open space that's flowing in there. So what would I do? And this is like, I don't know, maybe I've said this to CGS, I don't know, but what would I do to make the vented Helios quieter? Well, you could reduce the amount of vents, but your back pressure is going to go up, right? Or you could keep the back pressure similar and you could eat more energy up. Where would you eat energy? Well, you'd eat energy in the annulus. How would you do that? Well, you'd have to put complex geometry in the annulus. You have to make little ribs and stuff. Would it help? Maybe. That's what OSS did, basically. I mean, they did way more. I mean, OSS did way more. And the goal of the Helios and the Hyperion technology is to like be vented or not. So basically, it's like it's flow through or not. But the flow through of the CGS tech is not the same flow through as the OSS tech. The flow through the OSS tech is flow through with energy losses created. The flow through of the CGS tech is flow through, straight flow through when it's flow through. And when it's not flow through, it's trapping gas. So, could you turn a Helios into an OSS? Or make it, could you get the suppression rating out of the vented Helios as the OSS? You could, but you'd have to change the CGS, either by putting less holes in the end cap and raising back pressure, or robbing energy in the annulus and maintaining low back pressure. Those are your options. That's for CGS. If you're listening, that's what I would do. Probably. So make no mistake, the vented Helios is louder than OSS. Like by a lot. A lot. I mean, the vented Helios is louder at the ear than a Sandman K is. Because that gas is going right out, dude. That vented cap, it is sending gas immediately. It's gone. So I mean, with the CGS tech, you have to go to like a Hyperion K to get to balance back pressure. Because what does that do? It's gonna vent gas really quickly to the annulus, faster than the Helios. That's why it's lower back pressure than the solid Helios, but it's louder than the solid Helios, but way quieter than the vented Helios. Yeah, okay, so yeah, enough about that. But you get me? So for those of you keeping score here, there's a reason. I mean, all this is explainable. None of this is like voodoo at all. We know exactly why all these silencers are doing what they're doing. Like this is not a mystery at all. Super quiet silencers trap a lot of gas. Silencers that flow a lot are loud. And if you want to make a silencer that flows a lot quieter, you got to eat energy. What do? You do what OSS did. And then right now, they're the only ones doing it like this. And it shows in the design, and it shows in the metrics, in the performance. Okay, it is that radical. Are there other ones out there? Maybe. I haven't tested them though. So right now, OSS is doing something that is eating energy, and they're eating enough energy to make their silencer quieter than competitor silencers with supersonic flow. So it's yeah. So looking at figure 7, it's all there. You just look at the numbers, dude. That's what figure 7 is for. So what even comes close to this balance? There's only 3 on the table. It's Hyperion K. It has higher back pressure, not high back pressure, but it's a little bit higher back pressure. It's quieter. Hyperion K is really great for that. Another one, the Surefire SOCOM 762 RC2. It's a honking silencer. It's big, but it does balance suppression and back pressure. It has more than all these though, just not that much. And then the Sandman S. Sandman S has less back pressure than the Surefire, but it has more back pressure than the Hyperion K. But it's pretty good. But Sandman S is louder though. Out of this group of 4, it's the loudest at the ear. So yeah. You actually, isn't that crazy? You have to go way bigger than a Sandman K. You have to go all the way to the Sandman S to come close to the suppression of an OSS, and you still don't get there. You still lose. That's crazy, dude. And you have higher back pressure and you're louder? The whole point of the Sandman S was to have low back pressure and be quiet. And the OSS definitely has lower back pressure and is quieter, so that sucks if you're a Sandman guy. But I mean, the Sandman not that much louder. I think you'd probably be good with either option. But just know the OSS has way lower back pressure than the Sandman S. Don't. I know the Sandman S has low back pressure, but don't you think for a second that it has as low back pressure as the OSS. It's not close. It's a different Omega rating, right? It's a different category. It's category 4 versus category 2, or zone 4 versus zone 2. It's different. So yeah. That's actually like what in the actual F, man? Like that's really crazy. That's how ridiculous that is. Now, you may be asking yourself, Jay, does OSS just rule the world here? No. Absolutely not. First of all, it's loud. Just like all the silencers with the suppression ratings in the 30s. Are you kidding me? They're all loud, dude. A suppression rating in the 30s on a 20-inch bolt action 308 means loud. I mean, some of these are getting the higher 30s, like Hyperion K and the Surefire, like they're over 37 at the ear. Okay, you're getting close to 40, but you're not there yet. Okay, all of these are loud. On this whole chart, dude. This whole chart in figure 7 of this review. What is this? Yeah, dude. Omega gets basically to a 38 at the ear. Almost quiet. Almost. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, don't get it twisted. Yeah. Even the Silencer Co. Omega 300 is loud. It's reality. It's not until you get into the 40s that stuff gets sort of quiet. Like, so OSS is not going to win any stealth awards here, guys. Don't get it twisted. Like, I know I'm talking them up like they're great because it is. It's doing exactly what they say, but it's not going to be a wizard. Okay. So what it does do is it gets really extremely reasonable suppression for back pressure, and it does it better than pretty much anything else in the market that I've seen, that I've tested, obviously. Now, if you're wearing ears and you can't tune your gun for high back pressure, I mean, the OSS might be for you. And frankly, we need to understand how it influences sound signature on the Mark 18, on a tuned SBR too. Like, the tuned SBR will remain untuned for OSS, obviously. Like, but you know what I mean? Like, why would I tune a gun for the OSS? Like, it's going to be really hard to do that. We can try. Probably won't be able to. if we can tune the AR-15 to the tunable one, that is, for a high back pressure silencer to give better suppression than the OSS on the AR-15, like if we can tune that for that silencer, well, then you'll see that in the numbers and it'll be fine. And you'll see that your higher back pressure silencers are quieter because you're going to tune them so there's not going to be a lot of port pop. So you're going to have a quiet muzzle number, so everything's going to be super quiet for you. Like, that's easy. That's going to happen. Like, I can already tell you, I've already done some preliminary testing with some silencers, and I can actually make a silencer with a 5.56 end cap quieter at the ear on a tuned gun. And why is that? Because the muzzle blast is quieter. Why is that? Because there's a 5.56 end cap on it. Why is that? Because it was a 30 caliber silencer and I wanted to restrict the flow rate. How did I restrict the flow rate? I made the hole smaller. Hence made the silencer quieter. Silencers are dynamic pressure vessels that have flow rate go through them. Come on, guys. These are freaking valves, dude. Like, these are valves with, like, energy losses. The OSS is a complex high flow valve that has a lot of ridges in it to eat energy. Like, this is not voodoo. Like, stop. Like I want you guys to understand, like, this is not like voodoo magic. This is engineering principles that are applied to make things work. And that's why I think the testing I'm doing is good. So you can see this, okay? Like, this is not voodoo. This is just building mousetraps. Now, spoiler alert, just so you know, I don't want you guys to ever forget this. Quiet silencers on tuned guns are quiet. You're never going to get away from that. If you can trap a lot of gas and tune your gun to deal with it, you're going to be quieter every time. So, like, everyone that's saying, oh, well, OSS is going to be the best on ARs, well, depends on the AR, dude. Okay? So careful with that. And another thing, yeah, just like, so you just remember that. And also, something, like, okay, that's true. If you can't tune your gun and you just need something to dissipate energy and literally have the gun think there's nothing on the gun, like, at all, like, I don't even have to test 5.56 for you to tell you what that answer is. That's OSS. Like, a Sandman K and an OSS will be, like, 100% of the time a lopsided race. The OSS is going to win every single time with supersonic flow. Now, the Hyperion K is an option too for that, but, like, it's going to influence your gun. Like, I don't care. Some people say it doesn't, but if your gun is, like, super gas sensitive, I guarantee you that there's a difference between the Hyperion K and the OSS. But the Hyperion K and its sister silencer, the Helios DT, which is the Hyperion K with a half 28 thread, that's a very good option for an AR-15 that can't be tuned. But OSS is definitely going to be lower back pressure, and it's going to be noticeable, and because the omega metric is lower. And it's a different category. So I can assure you it's going to be different. Now, when you move to so like I said, the OSS is going to decimate the Sandman K with supersonic flow. Now, when you get a subsonic flow, that's a different animal. And so what happens when you move slower? Well, do you eat up as much energy with the method used by OSS? No, you don't. You don't. It's intuitive. It should be intuitive to you. Intuitively, you can see that no, you don't. The gas isn't moving fast enough. So it's gonna work, but it's not gonna work as well. And so instead, what you need to do is you need to start trapping the gas more with subsonic flow. And so that's why high volume silencers work great for subsonic flow, because you can trap more. Now with OSS, getting the volume is not going to help you. It's more it doesn't have traditional baffles, so it's not going to be able to stop the flow. The OSS was designed not to stop flow, so how is it going to stop it? It can't. So what the OSS design is going to do is going to try to create loss, but it loses a lot of efficiency when the flow flows down. You can't create as much loss when the flow is slow. So there you go. That's it. So I'll publish that 300 blackout data for you, subsonic for OSS. I've tested it, but Cliff Notes, it works on subsonic, but it's not going to be as competitive. Okay. That's the nature of the beast. It's the nature of OSS. That's how that works. Okay. I hope that was informative. All right, let's go into topic 3 at a time of 2 hours. Oh, my pencil broke. Time of 2 hours, 10 minutes, 27 seconds. Welcome to all the new PEW Science members. And thank you for your support. It is super late, guys. I hope this was a good episode. Thank you all for joining. Actually, shout out. Let me go to my website here. Shout out to some new members. I'm going to go to the Get a Quote page because I put the guy's logo. There's this company called Trajectory Arms. They just joined PEW Science as a corporate member. Shout out to Trajectory Arms. Thank you for joining. It means a lot. I think I sent you an email. In fact, I know I did. I look forward to speaking with you about this. I'll put your logo on my website. You're awesome. I mean, if you go there, guys, on the request for quote page under services and support at pewscience.com, you can see all of our corporate members there. I mean, a lot of you guys have been here since the very beginning. I think you guys are awesome. Really big deal. You guys help make this happen. So thank you all you guys. Thank you to our consumer members. I know you guys have really been patient with me, especially as I kind of waited to test this OSS stuff. I know it took a long time. So thank you for being patient. I hope it was worth the wait. I hope the analysis did it justice. To those of you who have those silencers, I hope that this helps you better understand how the way they work, their limitations, and their benefits. I hope this helps everyone about that. So thank you for your patience. Please, everyone, continue to be patient as I release some other highly desirable silencer data. It's just taking a bit. There's a lot to do. Obviously, the back pressure metric article took a while too. So thank you for that. Thank you for the feedback on it. Thank you to all the listeners that, even if you guys aren't PEW Science members, I appreciate you listening to the podcast. It's super cool. So thank you. That does mean a lot. And thank you to our sponsors, PEW Science and Silencer Shop. It's really great. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time, and I hope this was informative. I know there was a lot. So I want you guys, when you're using this data, to think about it. I want you, when you're operating your gas guns, I want you to kind of think about the omega metric and what zone your silencer is in, and how much you had to adjust your gas. And if your buddy has a different silencer in a different omega zone and he uses it on the same gun, think about how he has to adjust his gas. And if you don't have to adjust your gas, well, cool. But note any effects. And if you ever have any silencers that are on way different parts of the spectrum with an omega parameter, and they're doing the same exact thing to a gun, please tell me, because that's crazy. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you very much, and I will talk to you folks again soon. Bye.